Good morning, church. It's good to see you today. Glad you're here again. And welcome to everybody who's watching as we live stream and those who will be also watching archived copies of this as the week progresses. We welcome you all to the Emporia Avenue Church of Christ today. Good to have you here. Thanks to Tom for that uplifting song service. Wasn't that great? Spirited. Tom was just set. I mean, I was thinking that maybe I could say he was kind of like one of those bulls, you know, that's in the chute and ready to come out, but and just ready to go whenever we had to shut down. But then that's only 8 seconds, so I decided that wouldn't be a good illustration. And so he was in 3-point stance and ready to run and go. We had him on the program, and then when we shut down, everything got moved forward. And we were bringing him out of the box last week, and he was gone. So today he started teaching the adult class here in the auditorium and leading the singing. I don't know what else is on the agenda for today, but he's done a great job in the class and also in the singing, and we're glad to have that family with us and all that they bring to the table. Many of you have been asking me about Betty, and she's been instructing me on the phone over and over again. Tell everybody hello. Tell everybody hello. How do you do that? Well, so I'm going to try to do that right here, one speech to say she's thinking of you. She's locked down over in Alabama. We took her there, it'll be 4 weeks ago tomorrow that we arrived, and we hadn't been there 36 hours till the governor of Kansas decided that she would have an illustration of the rich man and Lazarus. There's a great gulf between the two, and they are there, can't come here, and they are here, can't go there, and not without 14 days of quarantine. And I've been through my 14 when I came back. I don't want to volunteer and go get her and come back another 14, and she doesn't look forward to a 14, and we're waiting for relief somewhere, but she's busy with what she's doing. I mentioned to you last week that Daniel, who's working in Tennessee, not to all of you, but to a few of you, had to have a test for COVID-19. The doctor said when he took it that you won't get the result for several days, but I'm pretty sure you've got it. So this time last weekend, I was really praying for Daniel. But on Wednesday of this week, he called and they said, "Oh yeah, you're negative. You're okay." So great. That's wonderful news. In case I'd shared that with you, I want you to know. During the course of the week, we, of course, have had the 2 memorial services, Linda Baumgardner on Thursday and Elaine Hogue on Friday. Elaine's sons couldn't be here, but when they knew that we were going to be taking a wreath or some flowers out to the cemetery at Cairo, they said, when they've been used there, just bring them back to the church for Sunday because they'll just die there. And so I'm not sure these die, no. But they wanted them brought back to be used here to decorate the church some. So that's why we have those. And we will miss those 2 wonderful ladies. And thanks to all of you who work so hard to make those services successful and meaningful to the families by your attendance, your effort that you put forth. I thought it was touching, the amount of obvious support that the families were receiving. And speaking of things that we do for each other, today is a day when we're dedicating a lot of things to our 2 young men who've recently graduated from high school. We're proud for them. They're a unique couple of guys because they're the only ones we know that have been graduated during COVID-19 situation, and that's all different. But Zach Leatherman and Cody Reyna are being honored this weekend. And this evening, we're going to have a party for them out at the park. And in fact, when the lesson is over today and we become dismissed, please don't leave right then because that's when we're going to show the video. Usually we have videos of them when we meet in the annex on Sunday night for the graduates. We can't do that, and we could never have the lighting out at the lake that would allow us to do that. So just sit tight and we'll see the video. It won't take long, and I'm going to try to be more brief so that that'll be allow more time for that. The lesson today is dedicated to them, but I hope that I've been able to put together things that will be meaningful and helpful to all of our young people and to those of us who are older as well. They're applicable, I think, in every level of life, but maybe particularly so for these who are graduating. I want to go to the Book of Proverbs and chapter 1. There's so much there that could be applied, but I just want to begin with the takeoff of the Book of Proverbs. And with that, I want to recommend to these two young men especially that you use Proverbs as kind of a benchmark for yourself throughout life, because there are so many wise things that are there. We'll not be hitting upon much of the particular things that are there today, but I'm telling you that this, down through verse 7, kind of introduces what can be found there, and I recommend to you for life. The writer says that this is a copy of the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel. And here's what the message is: to know wisdom and instruction, and understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, equity, to give prudence to the simple, and knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands, let him obtain guidance. To understand a proverb, a saying of the words of the wise, and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. I like the way that ends. It's the end of that first paragraph. But it seems all to point right down to that one thing. At the beginning of knowledge starts with fearing the Lord. That is always putting him first, putting him at the top, starting there, and everything fills in there afterward. And he warns that the people who aren't wise tend to ignore those things. The connection that ought to be easy to be made is that if you're going to be wise, listen to these things. And it's almost like the illustration I've mentioned before about my dad saying to the school teacher, if Willie misbehaves, punish the kid next to him. He'll get the idea. Connect the dots. And notice that if one does not behave in the wise way, there's only one other direction that's suggested there. And that's not the direction that we want to go. This is a important time in the lives of these young men, and we congratulate them in every way. We all do. It causes you to go back to your own high school graduation, doesn't it? If you had one, and I think most everybody who's of age did. I remember mine very well. It was not a common thing in my family, to say the least, to get a high school education. In fact, as far as I know and remember, my brother, 4 years older than me, was the first in the family to attain that, and I was second. So a high school diploma was real important in our family. And I remember, and this is a bit jokingly, boys, that as we lined up to go up on stage and get our diplomas, and I'm not sure how you did that virtually, or you finally got to actually go to some ceremony, but it wasn't the common thing. But ours was just like normal in the auditorium. And we were all lined up, making our way up. And as I was getting close to the steps where I'd be going up onto the stage to receive mine, I noticed that Mr. Slagle, the principal, was giving a benediction to each student. As he handed the diploma and shook their hand, he'd say, "God bless you." And the next would come and he'd say, God bless you. And the next, and God bless you. And I got there. He handed me a diploma, shook my hand, and said, praise the Lord. What does that mean? I don't know. Didn't really happen just that way, but it was an unusual situation. As we're saying congratulations to you young men, we do acknowledge that this is a major accomplishment. In today's age, learning is so very, very important. And we encourage you to never stop learning. There's a reason. Have you ever thought about when I went to the first grade? I remember when I finished the first grade, I really did this. It's not made up. I remember thinking, oh boy, just 11 more years and I'll be done with this. Turned out it took a whole lot more than 11, not for high school, but it took a lot before I got the master's degree, more years than that. We think that it's going to be, and they call it a commencement speech, don't they? When you get the idea when they say we're going to commencement exercises and there's a commencement speech, that kind of suggests that although you've got 12 years of education behind you, and although you've got a high school diploma, that kind of suggests it's not over. They call it commencement because that's where it all really starts. That's where you really get introduced to what I call the real world. That's where you change hoods, as it were. That doesn't mean you're going to leave your parents necessarily and move to another city. You're going to change hoods, though, because you're changing from childhood to adulthood. Guys, you've got a new hood in which you are going to live. And there's a different set of standards, and there's a different set of rules. There's a different set of responsibilities that are involved. Because it's in this adulthood that you're going to prove yourselves in terms of manhood, since you're both guys, and in service, and in producing probably a family that contributes to society, and you're going to point them in the right direction, and you're going to prove yourself as a leader in the church and a person who helps keep the body of Jesus Christ together and going. Wherever you may move and wherever you may serve, God's people will have a place for your leadership. And we hope that it'll always be offered and you'll always be confidently involved in the household of God wherever you go. Traditionally, when young people your age finish, many of them go to college. You don't have to go to college. You can learn how to make a good living without going to college. There are many service jobs that are demanding and begging for people, and education is good. My dad always said, son, I want you to get a good education so you'll never have to work hard like I did. I remember 2 4th of Julys in succession, back to back 4th of July. In Texas, not as many years ago as you might think, that I find myself on the roof of a house roofing at 107 degrees one year and 114 the other year. And what was going through my mind then was, Dad, I'm sure glad I got a master's degree so I wouldn't have to work hard like you did. You see, work is a very honorable thing. If you work with your hands instead of your head, you ought to be as honored as anybody anywhere because you contribute. I don't want you to think that we're saying that you ought to have a responsibility to go on to college, but if you do, be aware that we've already read the book, and that so many young people, when they leave home, think, boy, I'm out under the care of my parents now, and I can live how I want to. Sunday mornings, I don't have to get up and go to church. I can sleep in. I can do whatever I want to, and I practice all those things they always said I shouldn't do. And they just mess up their lives. They lose their faith. Maybe someday they come back, but maybe they never do. I hope you never leave. That wherever you go to school or whatever work you go into, that you'll be sure that you stay faithful to what your parents taught you, what the church taught you, and the way it led you, and that you will give back in gratitude and never look over your shoulder and not be thankful for what God's people and your parents gave you. You're passing through a real test here. When you change these hoods and you change the caps, so to speak, there's a lot of responsibility that you grow up suddenly and you do the right things because they are the right things. And you apply those things of wisdom. And it can be the wonderful time in your life. Ecclesiastes says in chapter 3 that for everything there is a time and there is a season. It's indicated also that everything is beautiful in its own time. This can be a beautiful time in your life. It's a time to transition from high school to whatever lies beyond, from childhood to adulthood and responsibility. And you can bloom, and you can grow. You can set goals, and you can strive, and you have the opportunity to become much more than other people thought you could. You can prove to them what you can do. This is your opportunity. You can do more than what would be suggested by the lot that you have drawn, the cards that you have drawn. You can rise above anything with God's help. Good, faithful service to Him. You can do more than you, even yourselves, believe you can do if you will do as the wise suggested. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might as unto the Lord. For it is He that gives the reward. Put God first and consider that your profession is something for His glory, and that you apply yourself as a child of God first and foremost in whatever you pursue, including choosing a wife, including choosing a church family with which to work. But you work hard. You be honest. You be trustworthy. You be reliable. You be faithful. And as you are, you be confident. Guys, Cody, Zach, you be confident of at least this one thing, and that is that you will always be welcome here. And if you go away, you will always be welcome back. And even if you mess up, we will be here still for you. This is your home. We love you. We're proud of you. We won't forget you. And we will never turn you away, push you away. But if you ever need help and comfort and a home, you'll find our arms wide open in this church. And again, I iterate, if you do mess up, then that's when you need to run back. Don't walk back, run back, run back, because we'll be here waiting for you. Throughout life, remember this. The harder you work, the luckier you're going to be. There's no substitute for work. Even the song says, work, for the night is coming. Jesus said, we must work the works of him that sent me while it is day, for the night cometh when no man can work. Honestly, give yourself to that which you do for the glory of God, and he will bless. We're going to offer the words of invitation in the song at this point, and then we'll close and then see that video. If you're here today and for any reason you need to respond to the invitation of the Lord, we invite you. If you're one who's never become a Christian, make today the day that you believe enough to repent of sin. We'd love to hear you confess Jesus here and see it all of our lives, and then we'll help you be baptized for the remission of sins today. If you're a part of the kingdom and you've drifted away, our arms are open to you too, just like I was speaking of how they will be for the boys. They're open to you, and God's grace is extended. If you need to come, come while we stand together and sing.